Good morning, Steeler Nation. Welcome back to Steelers Nation Australia. My camera isn't working again, but that's okay. When I talk, you'll hear the waves come up and whatnot. You'll see like Steelers Nation Australia. It's all cool. It's not working. But what also isn't working is this team. Our offense, we played really bad football. Our defense, look, offense in the second half was okay. Coming back to a near victory. It would have been crazy to win this game 31-27. Would have been absolutely wild. And we'd be 4-0 and we can work on our frustrations. But I am right now, I think, frustrated Steeler fan. And that's okay. And we need to air our frustrations, that's for sure. In this episode, guys, I want to talk about a few things. I'll just give you a bit of a list now what I want to talk about. I want to air my frustrations. I want to cover the Najee Harris, running back one, or the way how he's playing so far. I'm a fan of Najee Harris, but I'll get into that. Fields and his play, and the conversation about him being quarterback number one. Our offensive line being banged up. We'll talk about that. Patterson health and how he played. George Pickens. I want to talk about some penalties. I want to talk about our defense. I want to talk about as well in this episode. This might be a long episode. I don't know just yet. I'm just going to go and see just talk, podcast style. So if you're driving in your car, if you're making breakfast, if you're doing whatever you're doing, welcome to Steelers Nation Australia. I'm a massive fan from Australia. I've been a fan for like 22 years. And I do kind of miss the podcast sense. And if you guys miss this too, I'm a bit more free flowing in this sense where I can talk for 25, 30 minutes and just go through all things Steelers, right? So let me know if you miss this kind of coverage where I can just talk for 35 minutes. But if you don't like it, that's fine. That's all cool. One big shout out to everyone in the live chat yesterday. It was my 3 a.m. waking up, and I was waking up 3 a.m. to watch the game. One of the hardest games to get up to is around this time in week 4 because I've done it a few times in a row. Next week will be Steelers versus Cowboys. It's my 11 a.m. I think myself, Arsenal DB, and Steelers Dynasty podcast doing a group project, watching the game together at my 11, your 8 p.m. But yeah, this is a frustrating loss, and the Steelers are now 3-1. The Ravens, I tried to watch the game today, but seeing Derrick Henry, and he's a really great back, and how he was running the football over the Bills, like they played a really, really great game. Ravens versus Bills. I think King Henry, he's playing so, and we still got to play him too. We got to play him as well. But King Henry, he had like 200 yards. The Ravens won 35-10. What I might do before I get into my topics, I might go through some of the NFL and some of the scores, and just my reaction to them. So Ravens won 35-10. Henry runs for 199 yards. Jackson has 3 TDs. Like the Bills are unbeaten. The Bills got showed up. So maybe we shouldn't feel too bad in terms of we losing to the Colts and we're 3-1, because in that sense, Ravens put on a show. The Raiders have beat them. The Ravens are now 2-2, 1-1 at home, but they took complete advantage over the Bills and made them look like a non-playoff team or a team that's drafting first overall, right? It is any given Sunday. I'm going to go through some scores and we'll get into the topics today. So we have 2 more games in Titans versus Dolphins. No one really cares about that too much. And Titans are 0-3. Seahawks versus Lions. It's going to be interesting. I might try and watch the Lions versus Seahawks today as well. We had Falcons versus Saints. Right, Falcons now 58-yard field goal from Young Wei Koo. Bears go to 2-2 versus the Rams at 1-3. The Vikings are a huge, and I mean huge, surprise team. When they have won this week 4-0, they win 31-29. But Sam Darnold is absolutely going off. I think Sam Darnold had about here it is, 3 TDs, 1 interception, 275. Sam Darnold, I respect that bloke because everyone counted him out a few years ago. Jordan Love had 4 TDs, 3 interceptions trying to come back. They scored 22 points in the fourth quarter to come back. Couldn't get the job done, and the Vikings are 4-0. So they are a surprise team in the NFL, and that is what makes the NFL so fun to watch. Is all these different storylines, right? And now we're a quarter of the season, and Sam Darnold being 4-0 is like, who would have thought that? Who would have predicted that Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy went out, and next minute they're 4-0 leading their division? Right. We also had the Broncos versus Jets. We had 9 points for the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Knicks only had like 60, I think 60 passing yards or something like that. They win 10-9. Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is my fantasy quarterback, and he went off. I think he had like, what is it here? 300 yards. No, my apologies. Yeah, 347 yards, 2 TDs. Baker Mayfield has his, like that's his team. Baker Mayfield with the Browns. The Browns stuffed up. We'll get to them in a minute. And Baker Mayfield right now, 30 for 47, 347, 2 TDs, 2 sacks. Like that's his team. And he had 1 rushing TD as well. So Buccaneers moved to 3-1. The Eagles are 2-2. So it's really hard to predict who's going to be good this year in the NFL, right? A few more scores and we'll get into the game. Bengals won 34-24. And crazy too that Andy Dalton was versus his former team, the Bengals. And we had Joe Flacco, and we'll talk about Joe Flacco in a minute. Joe Flacco versus as a Colt and versus the Steelers yet again. We didn't have a plan for Joe Flacco. The Steelers might have had a plan for Anthony Richardson. However, they did not have a plan for Joe Flacco. Bengals win 34-24 over the Panthers. 1-3, the first Bengals win. Texans improved to 3-1, and we have Jaguars falling to 0-4. The Jaguars have a terrible towel curse, and also I'm going to talk about that in a minute too, about the Colts lighting a towel on fire. So Jaguars go 0-4. They haven't won. They've won 1 game since they cursed at the terrible towel. Commanders smashed the Cardinals 42-14. Jaden Daniels has another big day, and the 49ers kind of come back to home again, getting a nice victory, 30-13. And I know next week the Steelers would love to have that, where we win a game 37-34-17. Something with a double-digit lead would be fantastic. Raiders win their game 2016. I saw bits of that. Watson doesn't look very good. If I go to his box score, he's in trouble. I think the Browns are in trouble. They're a bad football team. Watson was 24 for 32, 176, 1 TD, 1 interception, 3 sacks. Minshew, 14-24, 130. They ran the rock 152, and the Raiders sneak away with a win there. The Browns just can't finish games. They just can't win. But there was a high promise side for Justin Fields and this offense, right? It wasn't good in the first quarter, second quarter, but the second half, we scored a few points. I think most of our points second half to catch up, and there was a chance to win the game. So there's some positives as well as some mostly negatives. Chiefs go 4-0, 17-10 versus the Chargers. And like I said, the Ravens beat the Bills 35-10. So that's kind of like a big catch-up in all these things, all these different games going on. Now, let's turn our attention to the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Colts. And I will begin the box score up to help us as well, because I've got a few things that I want to air my frustrations and get out. But we are still 3-1. We're still finding out who we are. My first overall frustration is the defense. I think that's one thing I want to try and lean on a bit. The first 3 games, I saw this 8.7. I'll bring it up again so many times. I saw 8.7. I was like 229.7. Steelers have the best defense in the league. They're number 1. They're awesome. They're the best. But same time, they didn't show up today in the first half. TJ Watt was missing. You didn't see any. The soft zone coverage was really terrible. It was hard to watch. I was like, how come you're allowing these receivers to get so wide open? There's no one on them. There was no pass rush. Nick Herbig tried his best, but he isn't Alex Highsmith. I love them both. I really do. Highsmith is a great edge and sets the edge for the run. TJ Watt was getting chipped, and it was tough. So you see this 8.7. Now they've allowed 27 points, right, in a game. So you know what? Was this team prepared? I don't know. Was it a Mike Tomlin thing? Was it an Austin thing? I think overall it was a team thing. I think this team can play good football games. They've won 3 in a row. They've been to 2 away games with the Falcons and Denver. I think they're playing a lot. They're playing a lot as a more cohesive unit than last year in terms of the, I guess, distractions and some mishaps at quarterback. I feel like now maybe Fields could be the guy for the rest of the year. He tried to come back with the offense and scored over 400 yards on offense, 2 TDs. But yes, there was some fumbles and stuff like that. But overall, the defense was very disappointing for me. It doesn't mean, though, that it's all over, right? It doesn't mean that at all. You shake this one off. You go and versus the Cowboys. And hopefully at home, you bounce back and hold the team to 17 or 14 points. But in the NFL, I give a shout out to the Colts because they played really good football. Joe Flacco teared us apart, dinking and diming. If I go to his stats, Joe Flacco was 16-26, 168, two TDs on fire, right? Taylor, 21 carries, 88 yards, one TD. They were just running past us, and they scored enough points in the first half to put a lot of pressure on the Steelers and just sneak away with a win. If you have one more quarter in football or maybe 5 more minutes, maybe the Steelers win. At the same time, though, you cannot allow a team to win to get down 17-0 in the first quarter or second quarter. It's very tough to come back from a 3-score game. Now, one thing I want to point out too was early in the week, they talked about stealing towels and doing all these kind of things. Here's a picture where the Indianapolis Colts fans just stuffed up. And I never really understand this. I honest to goodness, I never understand why fans go and buy something and then they would burn the terrible towel, they burn a jersey, or they will burn, a Ravens rally towel or a Denver rally towel. I don't get that. I understand he's trying to send a message. This is on Twitter. There was a video going around Twitter of the fan base maybe before the game. This photo I took, it kind of looks like it's before the game. So before the game, a bunch of fans and the Colts fans, you know what? They can do whatever they want. Everyone out there can do whatever they want. I don't really care. I'm just making my comment on it. But this fan base has now burned and lit on fire the terrible towel and threw it to the bin and said, F you, Steelers. My reaction to this, though, it's kind of crazy to me. Like, there's no real overall point to do this. I understand we're a fandom. We're a bunch of my team's better than yours. Your team sucks. I say it all the time. The Bengals suck. Browns suck. Ravens suck, right? I get that. But why would you go and what's the point? To me, there's no point to burn a terrible towel. And right now, the terrible towel is going to have a curse on your franchise. It's happened now with the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals. It's happened with the most recently with the Jaguars. They're playing bad football. Now, is there a connection? Maybe not. Is it all mythical? Maybe so. But in this sense, I thought it was totally disrespectful for the Colts fans to do this. But at the same time, each to their own, man. This is sometimes why I like dogs better than people. Okay, let's move it on. So I want to talk about just the overall game in a sense. I did see this tweet as well from Noah Struckbaum. He runs All Steelers Talk, and I've been very critical of Noah over the years because he does do a lot of clickbait and I think a lot of fear and drama and Steelers. Oh my goodness, Steelers this. Oh my goodness, Steelers QB. Who's going to step up? Oh my goodness, this guy, that guy. I don't think he actually talks football that much. I think he's more fear-invoking into the Steelers and trying to get a reaction out of the fans to fire them up and make stories out of sometimes nothing. But he did tweet this. He tweeted, Noah Struckman tweeted, one of Mike Tomlin's worst games in recent memory. And I'll say this. There was a few moments, and I'm a huge Mike Tomlin supporter. There's a few moments in this game where I thought, yeah, Mike T, why did you go for a 4th and 1 and then you sent out a shotgun package with Justin Fields and the play didn't overly work? Why do you do that? Why didn't you kick a field goal in certain sense? Why didn't you, why did you throw the challenge flag, right? But at the same time, on the flip side, we're so easy to criticize Mike Tomlin in these games where, oh, he wasn't ready for this. Oh, the players weren't jacked up, they weren't ready. But I think too that the Colts just played a really good game plan against their offense, against our defense. They were targeting on the run. Herbig, they were running towards his side. They were finding open receivers, check down and getting the ball out fast. They were playing up tempo. The defense simply could not keep up. They scored points fast and early. And yeah, if you say this is one of Mike Tomlin's worst games in recent memory, at the same time, it's kind of like one of the worst games maybe in Steelers memory, right? We start out flat, 0-17. Mike Tomlin's crew is 3-0, and not many people give him credit for being 3-0. I definitely do. This one, though, you kind of have to move past it as best you can. And yes, it's not great going into Colts land and being down by 17 and trying to claw your way back to them, then losing 27-24. But if they were to win this one, there wasn't a high snap towards, a snap that was out of order towards Justin Fields' helmet gets hit in the head. He wasn't ready. Nobody was ready. The play was scuffed from the beginning. Fumble. We lose 12 yards. It's now second and 22 or 30, third and 22, whatever it was a disaster, right? So I come back to this and go, well, Mike Tomlin had one of the worst games in recent memory. We're so easily to criticize Mike Tomlin when we do bad, but we're not. On the flip side, I don't think many fans are that positive around Mike Tomlin going 3-0 in the first stretch. Now, in this quarter review, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers are 3-1, and this is something where they need to pretty much watch the film or 22, do their homework, get better, get back to the lab, and just go after it. You have to. And yes, I was very disappointed in Mike Tomlin in some of the sense in how he did coach this team today or yesterday. But at the same time, we've got to move on. So you can say all you want about Mike Tomlin and fire Tomlin. It's not going to happen. They will not fire Mike Tomlin. There's a big season to go. We have now 13 games to go. And the score being 27-24, you kind of have to go, okay, scratch that one off. It's very, very tough to go 17-0. It's very tough to win football games, as we know that the Ravens beat the Bills today. And in that sense, well, you kind of scratch it off. The Colts beat us. You move on, get the job done next week, and move to 4-1, and then have a really good showing and get prepared to in prime time to beat the Cowboys. So I'm not too worried about this. Oh, we had the worst game in recent memory. It's happened. Let's try and deal with the loss as best we can. I do want to talk about another thing, though. Let's transition a bit into the quarterback talk, right? I told you guys it's going to be a bit more of a podcast style. Let me know if you guys like this or whatnot, and maybe at halftime I'll play a break or some fireworks, something like that. Okay, so airing my Steelers frustrations, I want to move into the quarterback topic, right? Now, we got here pictured. This is Jordan York. I'm ready. He says here, hashtag here we go Steelers, and a picture of Wilson. Are you guys out there in Steeler Nation? Are you ready for a change? Me personally, not just yet. I think Justin Fields played a pretty good game. There was a few errors, though, from Justin Fields when we had the snap and the miscommunication. And the one big one was the running backwards after trying to keep the play alive. He fell over, got sacked, and fumbled. You just can't do that. Besides the two brain snaps, Fields was the only real, I think, productive runner. Maybe Cordero Patterson before he got injured. But Najee Harris was doing absolutely nothing today or yesterday. All right, remember, guys, I'm recording at my 9 p.m. When you go to the stats and you have Justin Fields, who was 22 for 34, 312 yards, 1 TD, and 4 sacks. A lot of Steel fans out there, they want yards. They want 400-yard games. They want flashy plays. What you got from Justin Fields today was trying to get the Steelers the next step to win the game. It could have been a 31-24. In that sense, right? In that sense, it's why are we so quick to move on from Fields? Fields has been orchestrating this offense up and down the field. Has been getting better each week. Yeah, offensive line played really bad yesterday. So I'm not so quick to move to Wilson just yet. And I don't think Mike Tomlin will either. I think Mike Tomlin will go with a hot hand and go with what's working right now. And the offense is building around Justin Fields. So I respect Jordan York there. He does a Steelers podcast too, called the Six Steelers Podcast. I respect you, but at the same time, I don't think I'm ready to move on just yet. And also another point, I feel like we're very quick to move on players like that. You know, offensive line was in a bit of trouble yesterday. Anderson was replaced by McCormick. Then on the other side, James Daniels got injured. And then next man up was Anderson. So on the offensive line, you had Dan Moore, left tackle. You had Mason McCormick in his first game, left guard. You had Zach Frazier into his fourth game. You had Anderson, 7th-round pick, into his third or fourth game. And Jones playing right tackle. It's a young team. It's a very young team. So to say, oh, it's all on Fields or Fields sucks, he's terrible. I told you about Fields, he's terrible. The more you look into it, Fields was doing his best job to get it done by running the rock, getting TDs, 2 TDs, and moving the ball down the field, right? No pun intended. Justin Fields was doing his best job to try and win this game where the Steelers offense was stalling from play calling to offensive line troubles to missed snaps to penalties, all those kind of things. Aaron Champlin, I think he had to delay a game. Cordero Patterson was running like a madman, and we're talking about Najee next. But Patterson was running like a madman. Then the next moment, he goes down. So Fields, in that sense, he did have a good day. 312 yards, 1 TD, 0 interceptions, 4 sacks. Got to clean that up. Justin Fields had 10 carries, 55 yards, 2 TDs. Okay. However, Justin Fields can't be your main rusher. Let me say that again. Justin Fields, sure, he can run the ball 55 yards or 60 yards, but he should not be your main rusher. Justin Fields today or yesterday, sorry, my apologies, had 10 carries, 55 yards, 2 TDs, and 12 longest. Cordarrelle Patterson had 6 carries, 43 yards, 12 longest. Now, here's the moment we start talking about Najee Harris. And I want to point this out. I'm a huge fan of Najee Harris. However, in the comments, please, as in a football sense, what's the big difference between Cordarrelle Patterson when he runs the rock straight and forward, north and south, and getting 5 yards of carry, then he gets injured, that Najee Harris, not saying he's a bust, but they maybe didn't sign his contract for a reason, but Najee Harris seems like he can just not see the right gap or the right hole. Yes, it does take time for Najee Harris to warm up in these certain circumstances. I'm with you. I'm a huge fan of Najee Harris. I'm a huge fan of Jalen Warren. I still think Najee Harris can get 1,000 yards. I still think we have a very long way to go. But the offense does seem to stall out when Najee Harris is at the point where he gets handed the ball. The Colts defense was on fire. Defensive line, linebackers, they all stood up. There were times where you saw 9, 10 Colts in the box. You're like, oh my goodness, we're going to run into that. It was very tough. I'm looking at the stats and I'm watching the game. And I'm thinking, number 22 had 13 carries. Couldn't get into rhythm. His longest was 5 yards. And yes, he does invite over 7, 8 players into the box. He's holding on, 4 or 5 people at a time. I get that. At the same time, the offensive line needs to do better. Needs to do much better. But Najee Harris, it does become frustrating when you're watching the game and thinking, how come Cordarrelle Patterson can get 5.5 yards and run really tough? And on the other side, Najee Harris can only get 1.1. And this is where I want to bring this up. And I hate to quote this bloke, but here it is. So this is an article from Bleacher Report talking about Zaire Franklin. He was the same guy who wanted to steal terrible towels and take one home. So here it is. If I can scroll down from reports, as Colts, Zaire Franklin calls out Najee Harris for being soft after Steelers running backs gave him a double bird or something like that. There it is. So apparently, Najee Harris gave a double bird. Let him hear you. I don't know. That might have been, wow, maybe Najee Harris did that as coming out of the locker room. I don't know. Now, here it is, though. That's not the most important part. The most important part is that it's here. Colts linebacker Zaire Franklin took a shot at Pittsburgh Steelers running back Najee Harris following the Colts 27-24 win. Now, Franklin quoted a photo of Harris appearing to make an obscene gesture in the tunnel before the game. There you go. So Najee Harris is flipping the double birds. And in Mr. Franklin's response, he said this. He said, the kid is soft. He wrote on X, 84 run harder. Now, that is one thing I think for our Steelers fans out there. Right, I'm going to come back to this. So let me come back. One thing for our Steelers fans out there. What's going to happen to this position? Are the Steelers going to go with Najee for the rest of the year? Probably so. Does he need to play better? I think so. Does our offensive line need to play better? I think so. And also at the same time, should Steelers fans be a bit worried around Najee Harris and if they're going to pick up his next year? I also think so. It's one of those things where I think he can be very inconsistent. You see some good runs, 20-yard runs, but then sometimes he runs into the back of the O-lineman and it cannot get a yard to save his life. And maybe to a certain extent, when Zaire Franklin says, kid is soft, he wrote on X, 84 run harder. He's the bloke who's tackling him. Not a fan of Zaire Franklin, what he talked about our terrible towel. But maybe there's a point to that. Maybe as he's saying that he's saying that Najee Harris is soft and the other bloke runs harder. Because the offense was moving forward at great speed. And the minute that Cordarrelle Patterson went down, I was like, we can't run the rock. And the stats kind of back that up. I'm not a Najee hater. I'm just saying there's probably two sides to each coin. Najee Harris was 13 for 19 yards, He's one of his poorest games in the NFL. And Cordell Patterson had 6 carries for 43, 12 longest. And of course, it depends on what play calling you're doing for Najee Harris, what kind of offensive line scheme you've got set up, the blockers, individual play, the players on the field, all that kind of stuff. But there's a certain point where you start thinking, if he's calling him out for being kid is soft and 84 run harder, does the NFL teams out there respect Najee Harris? And you know what? Maybe they know where he's going. Maybe they know when in the moment the ball, or it's a 1st and 10 at the 35 Steelers, and they're handing it to Najee, maybe they all know what he's going to do. And he's not the fastest back in the NFL. I'm not saying he's a bust. I'm just saying at the same time, I think he's got to figure it out and start to fire up and really, really, get to the next level and the second level. So that is something we can talk about throughout the week, guys. That is Najee Harris and his role with the team in one of his worst games, I think, as a Steeler. It doesn't matter how bad the offensive line was; it was bad. And when you see Cordell Patterson running the rock for 5 yards, you think, oh boy, Najee, I love you, but I hope you can get better, mate. I really, really do. Alrighty, Steel Nation, there is one more thing I want to talk about in terms of this game yesterday, and I want to bring up. I said 2 more things I want to talk about. So first of all, I want to talk about the George Pickens thing. I don't know about you guys out there, but in a sense, when you're losing down 14 points, and I saw this tweet, and it started to make me think, and during the live game too, I was like, when you're losing down 14 points, and George Pickens had a good game, he can catch anything. You throw that guy 50-50 ball, it turns into a 70-30. He can catch anything. Pickens, however, had a few blunders. The first blunder was Pickens was a fumble. He was holding the football like it was a grocery bag, or like people were saying, like a bread loaf, loaf of bread. The way you're holding the football and trying to go out of bounds, and next minute it almost looked like you threw the football back into the field on purpose. Pickens and the team were going down the field to score a TD, and you turn the ball over. You can't do that. At a professional level, you cannot do that. So Pickens must bounce back from that. But that's not the biggest thing I want to talk about. The biggest thing I want to talk about is George Pickens and the first down point and shades of Chase Claypool. When you're losing by 14 points, and I never understand this, and please let me know in the comments below why players do this. Maybe it's an ego thing. Maybe it's a team football thing. I don't know. When you're losing down by 14 points with 6 minutes to go, you get a first down, 35 yards out. What is the actual point of doing a first down point when your team's losing? Catch the ball, run back to the huddle, and play again. Your team is down by 14. There is absolutely no reason to point and to celebrate a first down when you're losing by 14 points. That's just me. I don't know what you guys think out there. Please let me know in the comments. I don't understand why you need to celebrate a first down. Is that a receiver thing? Is that a Pickens thing? Is that an overall sport thing where it's individual performances? And I did a good thing. I did a great catch. Look at me. I'm fantastic. First down. However, the clock keeps ticking. Next minute, you're doing a first down, wasting time, and you haven't scored a touchdown yet. So down by 14 points, and you're celebrating a first down, to me, in the NFL, needs to leave. But my last thing I want to talk about, and it's getting a bit long, but I was going to talk about Joe Flacco as well. Shout out to Joe Flacco, took care of business, had it done. We should have had a game plan. But here is the last thing I want to talk about, and that is James Debo Harrison. Now, James Harrison said this on Twitter. That's my photo that I put up that I've made for our emojis. And James Harrison on Twitter isn't the most vocal during football games. This is really the first time I've seen him on Twitter where he's talking football or, making comments as the game was going live. And he wrote 4 comments. And he says this. He says, I'm a Steelers fan, but at NFL at CBS, that was a BS call. Now, this is in relation to the Minkah Fitzpatrick tackle when I think the ball was going out of bounds. It was dropped, and he was lining him up for a hit. And he ended up hitting with his shoulder pads, shoulder to shoulder. They called a flag at a key moment in the game. Now, I've got the audio too from Minkah Fitzpatrick, so I'm going to play it right now to get his response.
I thought we were playing football. I don't know what we're playing at this point. Very different game than what I grew up playing and what I grew up loving. Can't hit nobody hard. Can't be violent. So I don't know what to say anymore.
And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Can't hit nobody hard. Can't hit nobody violent. Right? That flag probably should have not been thrown. At the same time, Minka should know a bit better. However, when you think about it, if he does catch that ball, let's say Minka's doing his job. Minka lets him catch the ball and doesn't hit him hard. Then it's going to be a first down. Minka also is running to make a tackle. The ball's overthrown or out of his reach from his two hands and hits the dirt. Minka right now is trying to line him up for a tackle and hit him in the shoulder pads. He's not trying to hurt him or injure him. So when Minka does say, I thought it was football, you can't hit them, what are the defensive players meant to do? It's a very tough situation in the NFL because these flags come out to, for safety reasons, but most of all, I think they come out to control the game. They give the opposition, another chance or a fair play. But in this sense, when Minka was trying to, I think, tackle him or lead away with his shoulder, he hit him. Yeah, there was contact. But the minute there was contact, it couldn't have been that bad because the player jumped up to celebrate the flag. If it was that bad, where it was that physical, how could the player jump up and celebrate the flag that had just been thrown on him? And throughout numerous times in the game, Justin Fields was sliding down and he had an arm tackle around his neck and hitting him in the head. And there was no flags. The game from a ref point is so inconsistent, it is highly frustrating. It's almost to the point where you don't want to watch. And really, the only thing that keeps you in the game or keeps you coming back is your love and fandom for the team in football. But other than that, if the Steelers decided to close up shop and retire the team next year in 2025, I probably wouldn't watch, to be honest. The NFL can be such a poor product in terms of the refs' calls, the flags, what the players can and can't do, players getting fined for $35,000 for being a lead runner and apparently hitting their helmet to helmet with other players, players getting fined like last year, Warren getting fined $48,000 and coming back, players like TJ Watt getting flagged and next minute the refs apologizing. The game is really hard to watch from that sense. From the referee standpoint where flags come in on Minka, what's Minka meant to do? He either lets him catch it or he hits him. If he lets him catch the ball, we hate Minka, right? If he hits him too hard, the refs hate Minka. So it's very, very tough. But I want to go back to what James Debo Harrison said because he was very active and I follow him on Twitter. He's very active on Twitter. He said, I'm Matt Steelers fan. We know you're a Steelers fan because you play for the Steelers. You're one of the best Steelers to play in Steelers history. One of my favorites, or my favorite, right? He said that was a BS call. And he's not wrong. James Debo Harrison, the 2008 defense, there were defensive play could actually happen. You could be physical, you could hit players. Now you just can't. We all know that by reality. You just cannot hit players hard because also CBS and all those NFL websites and streaming games out there and Peacock, whoever, they don't want to show the game to be very physical. And that's what we've missed. We've missed that. So Debo says, I'm a Steelers fan, but that was a BS call. Now, like I said, he's not very active on Twitter, but he did go on a bit of a rampage. So he says here, we'll go from bottom to top. It was the first one was a bottom one, was I'm a Steelers fan, but that was BS. He says, James Harrison says that call on Fitzpatrick is going to change the whole outcome of this game, which it did. He said, final score at NFL officiating at Colts win the game 24-27, which you know what? I'm not blaming the refs. I will say, I am not blaming the refs. It does change the game slightly, but the Steelers should have played a better football game. But James Debo Harrison isn't wrong. He's not wrong. He's voicing his opinion on Twitter. And lastly, he says here, sorry, but I can't get fined. Because also, if players like Minka, when Minka did play the audio, and I'll play it one more time, when Minka plays audio, right, and you hear it for the 17 seconds, he could get fined for this.
I mean, I thought we were playing football. I don't know what we're playing at this point. Very different game than what I grew up playing and what I grew up loving.
Like he said, I thought we're playing football. Very different game to what I grew up playing, right, when he was a kid. Now, there could be a possibility that he could get fined. Now, James Debo Harrison, he can't get fined. He's just voicing his opinion like myself, a bloke in his room, and also you guys out there in Steeler Nation. Sorry, but I can't get fined. And laughing emojis. But James Debo Harrison isn't wrong. I'm a Steelers fan, but there was a BS call on Minka Fitzpatrick. Alrighty, Steeler Nation, I feel better about airing my frustrations. Please let me know in the comments below if you enjoy this kind of podcast style. Maybe I might do it once, twice, 3 times a week, where I can just talk, and cover a range of topics. It's a bit easier doing this than it is a video format because I can bring up videos and I can focus on looking at stats and that kind of stuff. Whereas normally I need to be a bit more animated in my video series when I'm on TV. But let me know in the comments below what you think. I really enjoy doing a little mini podcast for your morning. If you're waking up having coffee, if you're waking up cheering our Steelers on, yeah, we're 3-1. They can definitely fix some things. We weren't going to go 7-0, but I understand the Steeler frustration for myself being a bloke in his room, about to go to sleep, and you guys out there waking up in Steeler Nation on what should be a victory Monday, being 4-0, is now a losing Monday, and it's a bit of a wake-up call. It's a bit of a wake-up call to our Steelers thinking, okay, what can and can't we do, and how can we get better? I think in a nutshell, Najee has to run better. Offensive line, first of all, needs to get healthy. Offensive line and the running back play, I think they can bounce back, and Najee's got to just trust his instincts and just run hard. Just run north and south. Run hard. Just whatever Cordero Patterson did, that's what Najee Harris needs to do. Receivers are playing, I think, okay in certain points. Calvin Austin was a bit lost in today's game. Didn't see him much. Van Jefferson had a few goes here and there. Get the ball to Darnell. Please get the ball to Darnell more than we do. He was a legend. He was 6'8" bloke, jumped another guy. That was awesome to see. Frymouth had a day coming back to be 27-24. So the score, 27-24, it's closer than we thought. But the overall, you cannot allow 17 points at the very beginning. That's where it all kind of stuffed up, right? So, yeah, guys, let me know in the comments below what you think about this format and what you think about the Steelers' frustrations. I feel better heading to sleep, and I might catch you guys later on tomorrow to do a quick live Q&A. Talking Steelers will be here all week. I'll see you guys later.